South Dakota's pushing it to 5. They win set number 4, 25-23.
Hey Coyote fans, welcome into the Coyote Volleyball Show presented by Scooters Coffee. Alongside the head volleyball coach Leanne Williamson, I'm John Thayer. The Coyotes, since our last conversation, have had 2 matches. Coyotes at home against St. Thomas in a 3-set win, and then a tough 5-set thriller down in Kansas City. Coach, let's start with last Thursday against St. Thomas. The team came out very focused and locked in. No ties, no lead changes in the first 2 sets of that match. This team seemed like they came out firing right away.
Yeah, I think we were, one, excited to be back home. Anytime we can play in front of our fans, we definitely relish in that opportunity. But 2, I just think we played pretty clean. I think St. Thomas did some things and that was maybe a little bit different. We changed our defenses up a little bit, but our team just looked really confident kind of from start to finish, especially in those first 2 sets. Set 3 got a little bit closer. I think they made some adjustments. We actually had to make a couple more adjustments on the defensive end. But the thing that I really liked about that set was that we stayed composed. We were down actually a good portion of that game, not by more than 2 or 3, but that can stress out teams at times. And for us, we just stayed very composed, and we've been talking a lot about just the fact that we're always 1 run away. And we got that 1 run, and then you could just see it us to really never look back.
You always assume that if you get the first 2, that number 3 is going to be a close, tight set, just because at this level that's kind of how volleyball works. But you talked about staying composed, and your team scores, I think it was 7 of the last 9 points to finish that thing off. What went well? What changed in that stretch run to really build that momentum?
We just gave ourselves opportunities, and one of the things, you have to play defense at this level. You have to play defense in some of those sets that you're talking about in order to be able to come out on top. And they had been scoring at a pretty high rate in that set, whether it's from the middle or from the outside. And we honestly got 2 big blocks in I think the last 5 points. Harms closed late and just did a really good job of finishing our hands, and it makes a big difference. It's a big momentum changer, but we just played clean again. And that was something I was really happy to see. And I was happy to see that we were able to finish it in 3, because it is hard. It's hard to beat anybody in 3 sets, let alone maybe a set that we are down and they feel a lot of the momentum at that point. So really happy with the way we finished. And honestly, with this stretch, winning a 3-set match was important for us as well.
That win was the 4th straight win in Summit League play. Unfortunately, the win streak ended on Saturday in a 5-set thriller down in Kansas City. You knew that they were going to be very good. You've seen them now twice on the season, but that was an interesting match. The Coyotes were able to rally and get set number 4, force a decisive set number 5, and your team had the lead in that match, or in that set, I should say, even late, but kind of like you did on Thursday, they go on that home run, and it came after a timeout for Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, first, that's the type of match that we expect. We've now played them twice. They're towards the top of the standings. I think they're technically second just in terms of the amount of wins that they have compared to Omaha. But to play them twice at this point in time in the season, and actually not even have played 2 of the opponents yet, is definitely a different schedule. But we like playing those high-level volleyball games. So we always talk about in those moments of this is what we want, this is what we expect, and I think just understanding that can help us stay composed. And you're right, we did have a lead. I think we were up 11-9 at the time, and we were in a rotation that I would have felt really comfortable in. And they did some good things on the defensive end and slowed Harms down a little bit with some block touches, and unfortunately got aced in there as well, and just put ourselves into a much more difficult situation to be able to come out of it. And we have. I mean, and that is the thing. We've been pretty fortunate in 5th-set matches. We've had some luck there, and we've been able to find ways to pull those out. But 5th sets, anything can happen, and that's really what we saw being on the road a little bit. But I think the biggest takeaway is we just weren't quite as aggressive at the end of that match. I think we did it to put ourselves in the lead, and then we backed off a little bit when that happened. And ultimately, I feel like that's the reason why we weren't able to pull it off.
Is that the takeaway then? Is that what you talked to your team about, that particular thing, just kind of maybe letting off the gas a little bit instead of staying on it, and it's a learning opportunity for them with a lot of matches to play? Yeah,
I mean, there's so many learning opportunities. I feel like with every win, with every loss, we're kind of talking about just what are those main takeaways, and that was definitely one of them. I think the other one was that we are a very different different team right now than what we were just 2 to 3 weeks ago. That first time playing Kansas City to this weekend on Saturday, we're different. We're better. We definitely made some really good strides, and that was good to see, to be able to watch back that first time we played them, and now to be able to watch back the second time. And even though we didn't come out with the win on both of those, I really do feel like we're progressing the way we need to, and we've got to make sure that we stick with that. So even though the loss sucks, even though it hurts, nobody likes losing. Our team, they're filled with competitive people, so those losses can be taken hard. But we talked about the fact that we also have to see the growth. We also have to see the positives, and I think that's important to hold ourselves to a standard. It's okay to be disappointed, but we also have to have those positive takeaways too, of the fact that we are doing our jobs, we are getting better, and we've just got to stick with that.
Volleyball is one of the sports that is a game of runs. They're going to go for you and they're going to go against you, and you love it when it's on your side. You got all the momentum, and it feels like you can do just about anything. When one of those runs and that momentum is shifted against you, what is your message? How do you try to slow that down a little bit? Sometimes, obviously, the use of a timeout, but how do you try to keep your team focused and not let it get too far out of hand and too big of a run?
Yeah, honestly, our biggest thought process that we talk about is just being the present, and it's really hard because that momentum shifts because people start to doubt, people start to question a little bit. And if we can continue to think about that 1-0 mentality, and obviously we've talked a lot about that in just the matches, but for us, we've broken it down even farther of just 1-0 each point, so even though if we have lost, say the last 4 points, we're still talking about you gotta let those last 4 points go. How can we stay in the moment here? And I think when we do that, that's when we do play to win. That's when we don't let off. And part of it too is they might have just done some really good things to create a 4-0 run. It might not have even been something super negative that we've done. So it's just really staying in the present, staying in the moment, and making sure that we're taking care of each individual point instead of letting them kind of dwell.
I know we've talked about a few different players throughout the course of the season. One of them, Avery Van Hook, she really had a lot of assists this week. I think it was 43 against St. Thomas, maybe over 50 against Kansas City in that 5-setter. Her growth continues to rise.
Yeah, I think just more experience and more understanding of how to put our players into good situations. Whether it's running different routes, whether it's finding the hot hand, whether it's executing on, maybe a broken play, and she's going to continue to get better. But I do think she's just understanding kind of our team, the way we want to run our offense more and more each week that we play. So, with it, there's still growing moments. She's still going to be different than at the end of the season compared to where she is right now. But she's competitive. She's taking feedback really well, and that's something that we need her to continue to do.
Growth continues to be the word of choice.
Absolutely.
With this team, and I know it'll continue throughout the rest of the season, but we talked about that word a lot throughout this season, and that's what you're looking for, right? Continue to grow the next few weeks, and let's see what happens in late November.
Yeah, and obviously that hasn't necessarily changed over the last few years. We've talked a lot about the progression. We've talked a lot about growth. We've talked about being the best team that we can be, on that present day, and then obviously looking towards the future, just how can we be the best team we can be at the end of the season, So even though we're breaking it down and really trying to be in the present, obviously we have to continue to see that growth and push for it, even in some of these long stretches where we don't get to practice as much as we would like to.
South Dakota back at home this week for 2 matches. We'll talk about those matchups coming up in just a little bit with head volleyball coach Leanne Williamson. Coming up next, Laura Petterson joins us here on the Coyote Volleyball Show. That's on the way. This is the Coyote Volleyball Show presented by Scooters Coffee.
The Coyote Volleyball Show is brought to you by Scooters Coffee. Scooters Coffee. Amazing drinks, amazing people, amazingly fast. The Coyote Volleyball Show is brought to you by Scooters Coffee. Scooters Coffee. Amazing drinks, amazing people, amazingly fast.
Welcome back inside the Coyote Volleyball Show presented by Scooters Coffee. Our guest this week is Laura Petterson, the senior on the volleyball team. Laura, how are you? How's the season going? I know it's been a little bit up and down, but exciting to have a couple of home matches this week.
I'm good. It's been a lot of fun this year. Like, I'm so excited that I'm a senior and I'm experiencing this with this team. It's been a lot of fun.
You get an opportunity to handle a lot of the serves for this team. A few weeks ago, you had a match high, a season high, 4 aces. That was against Kansas City in a home match. Talk about the approach to a serve and what you're looking for.
Honestly, I just go in there and I'm like, I want to get aces. That's my main goal, like to get aces. And if I don't get an ace on the back end, to like defend the ball. So when I go in there, I'm like, have the most confidence that I can. And I'm like, my teammates all have confidence in me too. Like, they all smile at me when I go in there. And I'm like, okay, that's good to know that they also do too. And then like the coaching staff, like they have the most confidence in me too. So I go in there and I'm like, why wouldn't I have confidence to go in there and serve the ball?
Typically, they kind of give you a little bit of direction on where they want you to serve the ball. Are there certain areas that are a little more challenging to try to hit?
Yes, there are. There are ones on Leanne will agree with me, but the ones on the further end of the court that are further away from me, like the one area, those ones are harder for me than the ones that are straight in front of me.
What goes through your mind when you get that assignment to try to hit it a little bit further and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it this time?
Yes, it's mainly I just think like hand contact on the ball. Like, hit it right and get it to float to that side of the court.
When you go to serve the volleyball, are you trying to hit it in a certain way to produce a kind of a wobbler, a knuckleball, if you will, to make it difficult on the return?
Yeah, kind of. It's like just hand contact. Like, you just want to hit it like perfectly so it'll just like float, won't spin at all.
How much fun is, I mean, obviously getting aces, that's your goal, right?
Yeah.
And they can be a lot of fun because those are momentum shifters. Is that going through your mind when you get called in to serve, and just the idea that, man, if you get one here, it could shift things?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because when I do get an ace, everyone's like so excited, and I think this year it has become more excited because they started calling me the ace queen. Some of my teammates have. So I think when it happens, they like get so excited. They're like, oh my gosh, she got another ace. So I think it is a momentum changer, and like everyone like kind of leans into it on the court. Like, if I go in at a tough spot, like then they'll all be smiling when we go in the huddle. So I think it is a very big momentum shift.
Well, we're definitely going to have an ace queen graphic at some point this season. Now that we know about that, Your team's back at home this week. How excited are you? I know this is a tough stretch for your group. Obviously, Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday. It's a very, very tough stretch. How important is it to be back home this week?
Very important. I think playing in front of our fans is a lot of fun for like all of us, and like our families come, and just like having that support. Like on the road, we have a lot of fans that travel too, but nothing compares to being in here and hearing everybody cheer for us.
Should be a good crowd for a Tuesday night matchup against South Dakota State, and I know you personally have a little different story with that.
Yes.
Your family a little more connected to South Dakota State, but here you're trying to turn them a little red.
I am, except my brother now goes to SDSU. Sadly, from last year when it was just my dad. Now it's my brother too. So that has been, my parents have been like giving me crap, like, oh, well, now we're gonna have to start wearing blue. I was like, you will never catch me in blue. That's the thing. Like, I might wear a blue shirt, but it'll never say SDSU. No way.
What has your family conversations been like as you've played your career at South Dakota with that rivalry and trying to get your dad to wear some USD clothes?
Well, it started my freshman year more so my dad, like, wouldn't wear red. He was like, I'm not gonna, like, he would just do it to get a rise out of me. And then, like, as the years have gone on, he wears red all the time. Like, when he's at work and he can't make it to a game, he'll have his, like, USD hat with him. And in the past, he wouldn't have done that. He would have brought his SDSU hat and been like, oh, like, good luck, whatever. But now he's shifted and he has a lot of red. My mom went to SDSU too, but she didn't graduate from there, so she doesn't have a whole lot of, affiliated with them. But now that my brother goes there, he's the one that gives me the hard time.
Well, as long as they cheer for you to win every time you play, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you want to see out of your team this week? Obviously, a couple of big home matches. You get South Dakota State and then Omaha. Big matches before a week off of games. What do you want to see out of this group? Kind of the sprint to the finish of this brutal stretch right now.
I would like to come out with both wins on both of them. But obviously, SDSU is a rivalry match, and that game is fun every year. And we have a very long streak of beating them, so I think beating them again at home will be fun. And then Omaha will be fun because it'll be a rematch from the first game of the season, and I think that one will be very important for us. So I just think that those two games and what is coming if we win those two games is going to be a lot of fun if we do win them.
What have you seen as a senior out of the growth of this team? I know there's been some adjusting with the lineup and some of that and some younger players getting involved. What have you made of the growth of this group?
I just think that it has taken a lot of us upperclassmen to help the underclassmen get into grow into their roles, and if they have questions they will come to us and ask. And so I think being older has been nicer to have people come to us and be what should I do in this situation, and be able to help them.
Well, we look forward to the week. Good luck this week, and good luck the rest of the season. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's Laura Petterson joining us here on the Coyote Volleyball Show. Coming up next, we'll talk about the week that's coming up with Coyote Volleyball head coach Leanne Williamson. South Dakota back at home for 2 this week. A conversation coming up next. This is the Coyote Volleyball Show presented by Scooters Coffee.
The Coyote Volleyball Show is brought to you by Scooters Coffee. Scooters Coffee. Amazing drinks, amazing people, amazingly fast.
Back on the Coyote Volleyball Show presented by Scooters Coffee. We're joined by the head coach of the Coyote Volleyball team, Leanne Williamson. Coach, your team is in this stretch now of 4 matches and an 8-day stretch, and obviously 2 more to go. How have they handled it so far with this quick turnaround as you get ready for a midweek matchup?
I mean, I think overall they've done a good job. We've talked a lot about the recovery piece of it. It's not just about that day, but then putting yourselves in a position to be as prepared as we can the following day. So, obviously that travel in there is makes it a little bit more difficult. Luckily, it was just to Kansas City, so it wasn't a terrible trip for us, but I think part of it is just continuing to take care of ourselves. But we had a good practice yesterday. We'll get ready, do a little bit more today, but we've had to back off. We do have some people that are dealing with some things, so it's that fine line between getting the reps in, but also making sure that we are physically in a good spot to be able to compete on those game days. So a lot of it is the mental learning, some of it just through the conversations and whatnot. But I think the nice thing is we're home for 3 out of the 4 of those. So I think that definitely benefits us, and looking forward to a good match tomorrow.
Well, it's a grind to the finish for this stretch, and then a week off of matches for your team, which I know they'll use that time to rest and recover the body, certainly. But chance to go 1-0 tomorrow against South Dakota State. First time you play them this year, and I know that they've struggled a little bit at times this year, but this is a matchup. Throw out the records. They're going to come ready to play.
Yeah, I mean they always are. We've had some really, really good battles with them over the last few years. But I think the other thing is, even though their record may not show exactly I think what I've seen on film, they've been in the matches that they should. They've taken some really good teams down the stretch, and we expect a really good match here tomorrow night. So I think it always is, but obviously going into this year as well, I don't think anything's changing from that standpoint.
And then 2 days later, you get Omaha for another chance against them, and one of the teams that has shown they're one of the top teams in this league.
Yeah, they've done a good job. And another team that I think has gone the extra distance with a lot of teams, and they've been able to find ways to win a lot of those 5-set matches that they've been in. So, again, another challenge, another good opportunity for us to play, the top team in the conference. But right now we're trying to stay focused here on SDSU. But this is a big week for us. I think it's a good opportunity for us, and I think in some ways the training is important, but in some ways we just have to be ready to compete at a high level. And enjoy that. We all play this sport because we love it, and I think to really play the best, both tomorrow and Thursday, we have to have confidence that we can be there as well.
I know we want to get tickets sold to the upcoming games this week as always, but they did announce this week all session passes for the Summit League Volleyball Tournament, which your team gets to host because of winning it last year. So great opportunity for fans right now to get those get those tickets and plan for that November tournament.
Yeah, and last time we hosted, our fans did just that. So, I'm optimistic that we're going to have a good showing here. But I do think those all-session passes are, it's exciting that it's going out. It's exciting that we're able to purchase those at this point. And it's exciting that we're not that far off from, hosting the tournament here. And I think it is going to be a crazy tournament. I think there's going to be a lot of really good matches, and I think it's going to be fun.
I know you're focused on this week, so take a look at this week. What does your team have to do this week to try to go 1-0 Tuesday, 1-0 Thursday, and kind of get back in that win column?
Yeah, I continue to talk about the serve and pass game. That's going to be huge for us. But honestly, we have to be in the present. We have to focus on just what's in front of us, whether it's that point, that game, or that match. Not look towards what happened this past weekend, whether it's just playing two different matches or, obviously the loss on Saturday, but also not looking ahead. I think it is a tough stretch to be in physically, mentally, emotionally, but at the same time, this is why we do this, because we get to play the game we love. And in a lot of ways, this is what they train for. This is what they're doing this for, is to play games, and now we get to play a bunch of them. All
right, Coach, have a great week. Good luck this week, and we'll look for a couple of victories for the Coyotes. We'll talk about it next week. That's Leanne Williamson, the head coach of the Coyotes, joining us here on the Coyote Volleyball Show. Get your tickets for this week's matchups, a Tuesday night matchup with South Dakota State and a Thursday night matchup with Omaha. Get your tickets at goyotes.com. That wraps up the Coyote Volleyball Show, presented by Scooters Coffee.
The Coyote Volleyball Show is brought to you by Scooters Coffee. Scooters Coffee. Amazing drinks, amazing people, amazingly fast.